Hey, what it do? What it do, everyone? Y'all see Trey the MBD up in this piece. It has been a minute, and oh my goodness, StreamYard's changed up on me. So I kind of like have no clue what I'm doing here. I got Mrs. MBD number one here with me, Mia, and we're trying to well, she was trying to figure it out, and I have no clue. Looking at my phone here, what you did, but I'm gonna have to I'm driving, y'all. I'm gonna have to pull over and figure out the new StreamYards application. But we're here, we're just gonna have a little brief conversation about Carmelo Anthony verdict and all things what it means, the ramifications, and a couple other things that deal with the trial, what's going on, the aftermath, and things you've heard me say for like 6 years. But without further ado, I'll introduce Mrs. MBD here. You got it for a few minutes. Let me take a look at these settings here. You got it, Mia.
Hello, hello. Let me say hello to David O. Hello. And Dolomite19. Dolomite19 says, Trey with a surprise stream. This happened around your parts of the. Wait, I'm sorry. This happened around your parts, so your take will be intriguing. Interesting. Thank you, David O. Nice to have you around. So yes, as Trey the MVD said, this is a surprise streaming. Um, streaming is always best at night, in the middle of the night, when you're driving in the middle of nowhere, and you got to get some stuff off your chest. So let's hear first off what Trey the MVD has to say on this.
Hey, what's good, y'all? Oh, wow. You know, uh, Mia said, I'm driving, so you won't see my beautiful face tonight or my broadcast of teeth. Shout out to Deacon Dave, who'll probably catch this on the replay. And I know most of y'all are going to listen to this on the replay. It's just going to be a short little discussion between myself and Mia. Um, as you all know, last year, last April, Carmelo Anthony stabbed Austin Metcalf in the heart, which led to his death in Frisco, Texas, about 4.5 hours from where I live at, outside of San Antonio. And it's been a hot button issue. Um, Carmelo, for history's sake, right on the spot said, he wasn't alleged, he did it. And what that culminated in was the trial that, a guilty verdict was found a couple days ago. Short trial, um, great job by the prosecution, horrible job by the defense. 3 hour deliberation, guilty. He was sentenced to 35 years. Got to excuse me, everyone. I got a little sinus infection going on. So if you hear me all, that's what it is. But my short initial take on this before we get Mia in here on this is this was an open and shut case. Um, I won't even go down the rabbit hole with it, but I'll just say this. This is one of those cases where the media tried to twist the narrative basically to make the community, foundational black Americans upset, piss them off, get them upset, hope to get them rioting. But I'll say this. Anyone out there who believed or supported, Carmelo Anthony is just a complete idiot. And based on, what you've heard me say in the past on this channel, you know how I feel about those type of people. I don't include myself with them anymore. If you have my avatar for anybody who's catching this video who's never seen it, yeah, you could, people would call me black. My mom's, for those who don't know, my mom was Jamaican, my dad's from Mississippi, brother from Mississippi. I got a lot of indigenous, background on both sides, a lot of, Irish on my dad's side. And yeah, like I said, my mother's Jamaican. So I don't attach myself whatsoever to any of this community black stuff. To me, we're just all humans. I'm American. I'm an American man. Shout out to my homie up here on YouTube, American Man. And that's me. I don't play the race game. I don't. It's all nonsense. It's just all some Marxist, Bolshevik stuff to divide us. But with the verdict, we saw what people call chimping out going on after the verdict. People, protesting because a black man can get a fair trial here. He wasn't judged by a jury of his peers. There were no black people on the jury. And, we'll talk about that here in a second. But it is what it is. Open and shut case. Is open and shut, look, as my thumbnail says, as can be. But, hey, mainstream media's got to push the narrative, to get the folks upset, to get the liberals, caping for black folks, and, to get basically the ends angry and chipping out and ready to riot and do things. And thankfully, there was no rioting, which took place. But without further ado, I'll give it over to Mia. You can get your initial take on this whole murder up till trial and your just basic thoughts about the case. And then we'll get into specifics here in a minute. You got it, Mia.
Hey, hey. All right. So really, I think that justice was served. I don't believe. Well, let me just say what I believe. I believe that force should be met with equal force. If you punch, I punch. If you stab, I stab. But it's not if you punch, I stab. I think that this young man unfortunately had some emotional control issues and maybe anger issues. I don't know because I don't know him, but I'm going off of what was said. But what I do know is that he was in a place where he wasn't asked to be, he wasn't wanted because of the rules of the particular schools, and he committed a crime. Some might say, "Oh, he's a boy." Well, he was a man the minute he committed that crime. He decided to act impulsively, and I do believe justice was served.
Nice. All right, so justice served, and I'm right there with you on that. And we'll just start from this, and I'm going off the top of my head, y'all. I don't have notes or anything. This is just a raw reaction, based on a Matt Walsh video I saw, Donovan Sharp covering it. Shout out to both of those gentlemen, especially Donovan Sharp, who I've been following for a long time. Um, Look, I'm I don't know if y'all know, I'm a former, I don't like to say it, all state, all American, like high school track athlete from long, 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 long time ago. We're talking over 3 decades ago.
Long time
Uh,
ago.
yeah, for me being on the track. And, for those that don't believe me, I ran a 45.9 quarter. Uh, I can't even believe I ran that fast back in the day, seeing I could barely run to my mailbox now. That 45.9 quarter, um, sub 10 700 meter dash. I was, you know, top bronze medalist at the Junior Olympics when I was 12 years old. I started running track at track meets, formal track meets when I was 7, and eventually got a track scholarship to William and Mary, where I was supposed to walk on the football team sophomore year, running track, and I got hurt first meet at the Naval Academy. And funny enough, for those that know, my roommate at William and Mary was Darren Sharper, who should have been my teammate if I hadn't got hurt. And speaking of criminal cases, shout out to Darren. He's he just got transferred to a halfway house. He'll be released in 2028. Whatever your feelings are on the case, it is what it is. Hopefully, Darren's been rehabilitated, and that's all I got to say on it. But speaking of this case, as I said, I'm a former track guy. I've coached, ran, a couple things. Nobody in their right mind brings a knife to a track meet. It's just unheard of. Nobody. There's no cleat sharpeners. Like the whole cleat sharpener narrative, nonsense. If you're running on a tartan track, the rubber, you change your spikes up. You want to get the best grip possible. You're sitting there with your little spike remover, putting your best spikes in before the race that day because you want to be at your best. And as far as being under another team's tent, it's that easy. Like when you're at a track meet, when you got to go warm up, and this was from 30 years ago with no cell phones or anything like that. Oh, best we had were pagers. But our wallet, our keys to our car, all that stuff is your personal stuff. Is in your team area. So you really don't want nobody else in your area. And that's like just initially on the make up of what happened that day, leading up to the confrontation. And another open and shut thing I see is this. If hey man, who are you? What are you doing under our tent? Okay, hey, do you mind if you leave? That's it. At that moment, I don't care if it's raining or nothing. Leave. If it's pouring down rain, somebody. Hey, big guy Austin. Hey everybody. Hey, y'all mind? I'm with the other high school, but it's full under our tent. It's way over there. Y'all mind if I sit here for like a couple minutes until the rain dies down? How hard is that? You got it, Mia.
Okay, so before I give my thoughts on that, when you were talking about your track career, David O said, "Damn," and then he said, "I was the worst cross country runner at ISB." Sorry about that, David. Not everybody got them legs. I'm one of those. I can throw real good though, but I can't run. So I mean, I did sports when I was in school. You don't go into the other, team's area of because you're competitive. You're competitive and you have your stuff there like you said. It's known, but this young man was obviously looking for trouble and for whatever reason, only God knows. But yeah, he found it because he decided to be aggressive and decided that he wasn't going to listen when he was told to leave. Um,
And one thing with that is this. And no, like you brought up the self defense thing and the like respond in kind. Every single witness basically testified that it was anywhere from a light touch to a basic shove to get out of our tent. Look, look, you from the projects, I'm from the hood. We threw hands back in the day. Your side, where you from, where I'm from, people threw hands. That it's a saying, yo, you fixing to throw hands. Um, it just is what it is. And the one thing I'll say about this is that, well, he had to be found guilty of this because you cannot have a functioning society where the response in kind to somebody pushing you or bumping into you is stabbing them or using any other kind of deadly force. Just we can't have a functioning society at that point. We might as well be in Afghanistan or Haiti.
I agree. I totally agree. Um, I mean, it was obviously not self-defense. Um, Meeting force with equal force, that's not what happened here. But my heart goes out to the Metcalf family and also to the Anthony family because they both lost two boys, two young men that are now, one is gone for good and the other one is going to jail. So, I mean, only one person really got what they deserved in this case, in my opinion, because you don't put hands on people and expect for someone to retaliate in that form. You should.
Well, it's like this, and based on the witness testimony, first off, a slight little nudge, and all the profanities and explicit language, being told 15 times to get out. Yeah, and you've got community you know, trying to be good tonight, speaking N word to A lot of different, Willie D of the Ghetto Boys. I saw him talking about it last night on Ask a Brother podcast. Shout out to Jeff. But a lot of your quote unquote normal black folks, not the N words, are defending this, trying to like N word explain anything other than you can't stab somebody in the heart at a track meet. You brought a knife. You committed crime number one. Crime number two, you're trespassing. You know, who knows? Everybody's got $1,500 cell phones now in their wallet. Here you are, nobody knows you. And then number three, the reaction. You were told 15 times to leave. You used profanities. You freaking made a threat. Touch me. See what happens. At that point, you're the aggressor. On any normal functioning society, modern society, where a high trust society, that is like if he would have been a couple months older, capital murder. Whatever lethal injection, whatever Texas does, it would have been justified by the state to find him guilty of capital murder. But luckily for him, he was a minor. But when people ask me, hey man, what happened to the black stuff? Like, no, I'm not with those people. I don't want anything to do with this reference of, hey, you're a black guy. No, the fuck I'm not. I've even checked you numerous times on the 18 years we've known each other. When you've slipped and called me black or African American, I look at you like you're crazy. I don't want no parts of being around these people. If you're gonna debate, hold up real quick. If I hear anyone debating whether this case is open or shut, murder, I think something's wrong with you. I think you have something mentally wrong in your brain. There's no debate in this case. Regardless of what those witnesses said, based on Carmelo Anthony's own words that day, it's open and shut. Should have never went to trial. Go ahead, you got it.
Okay. Let me go ahead and read a couple of comments here before I continue. So JB Design says, salute to Trey and the fam. Huge update. Recently got a solid remote work job. Congratulations. Looking to start traveling once I save up. Any recommendations? I am so happy for you, JB Designs. It is awesome. I'm sure that Trey can give you some recommendations, of course. We
All
have
right,
Miss
let me
Dakota.
let me jump in there. Mute up real quick.
Oh, oh, oh,
Hey,
oh, hold on.
JB, man. It, I mean, I'd recommend DR. Just go DR, check it out. Mexico City is pretty safe. You don't really need English. If you're gonna try Medellin, go with somebody like me who speaks fluent Spanish, like a brother like me, a gringo, white boy who speaks fluent Spanish. Um, do it. Don't go down there. Medellin is expert mode. If you got the funds, you want easy mode, go to Thailand. A little more difficult, go to the Philippines. But yeah, just do your research, watch these passport channels, and make it happen. But congratulations, bro. Hey, you got it, man. Keep going.
Okay. Yes, congratulations. So Miss Dakota says, my son runs track. He said you do not go into another school's area unless you are invited. Very true. She also says, evil does not know color. Very true. David O says, nibsplaining. And he also says, WSOC. I don't know what those mean, but you might. But my opinion, honestly, um, this young man was troubled, and unfortunately, again, it cost a life, and his life is now going to be, you know, uh, locked up for quite a while. As far as the people, I'll tell you what. I am Dominican, and I grew up in the hood. And for me, this whole ignorance of no one really pays attention to the um the reality and the facts. where everything is no, even if he's found guilty, we take care of ours. We'll I don't even know how it was said, but it was just like
We'll get to that.
irrational.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a second. Mute up real quick. Let me run with it. I know where you're going. All right. So what Mia is referring to is the chimping out that took place outside the courthouse during the trial and especially after. And we'll speak on that here in a minute. But just from the simple, like what I was saying, Mia, is that looking at this case from the outside in, say like if we're Japanese or we're like Dominican like you, or I'm down, chilling down there with, Mrs. MBD number two in Hondurans, down there looking at it. It's open and shut. It's okay. You did something illegal. You killed somebody. Cold blood murder. End of story. There is no way around it. Like David O said, the nip explaining it going on with liberals and FBA black folks is insane. And I don't people. I've been hearing a lot of talk this week about, oh, even your daughter was even like talking about the difference between the good black folks and niggas. Basically, I use the word. Oh well, but she was shocked where she lives at the behavior of some of the niggas, and like what's asking you what's going on. And my advice to her was don't trust any of them. Don't even trust me. Like, remember, y'all, years ago I came up with the Candace Floyd test. If that good black person, like Jasmine Crockett, good black person, private school, a lot of money, Don Lemon, if they can't pass the Candace Floyd test, you can't deal with them. You cannot deal rationally with them because they will cape for the savages. The people that were chimping out outside the courthouse, getting up in everybody's faces, doing these weird tribal dances and screaming in the camera, wishing death upon, Austin Metcalf's twin brother Hunter. These people are savage. They have no souls whatsoever. And if you hear what you think is a good black person trying to explain and cape for them, walk away. Move far, far away from them. Consider this a warning from me. You got it.
I think you said it all. It's There's nothing else I can say to that. That was perfectly said. But this kind of situation makes me think of our, future grandchildren, um, their future, what it's gonna look like, and it's a little scary, to think that people are so focused on color that they can't see or be accountable for their own actions. Now people are saying, well, we need to be accountable for our children's actions. No, everyone is accountable for their own, and that's the thing. If you teach them when they're growing up that they have to be accountable for their actions and that there are consequences, maybe some of this stuff wouldn't be happening. I mean, what do you
Well,
think?
I disagree with you slightly. Since that community wants to be a collective, okay. If your kid stabs somebody in the heart, the Carmelo's Aunt Anthony's parents, we're gonna lock you all up too. Lock them up. Like forfeit all that money they got on Gibson Go, $600,000 raised by people that believe the mainstream narrative that are just sick in the head, sick in the head to believe. I mean, yeah, lock the parents up. But like I said again, if something is wrong with you, something is really wrong in your head, you're inbred, you're brainwashed, you're an NPC. I don't know what it is. If you look at this case as anything other than open and shut, I can't look at you the same anymore. When you're telling me that, well, maybe what had happened was, if you're ignorant of the facts of the case, okay, cool. But you hear the testimony and you still have those thoughts, okay, yeah, I can't deal with you at that point. I can't associate with you. Nothing. You got it.
Let's see here. We have another comment. We have Robert Jeffrey 5560 says, keeping it real. Wait, what does that say? Hotep? Keeping it real, Hotep. Not sure. But okay. I, mm, from a human point of view, with some common sense, if someone does something that egregious, then and they admit it, and everybody around them who saw them and saw the interaction agrees that you know, uh, it was Carmelo Anthony that was being the aggressor. I think it is pretty open and shut. But there are too many people trying to make excuses and trying to paint it into something that it's not. Paint it into something that is racial. Paint it into something that is even, I mean, political. And it's really stupid, in my opinion. JB
Well,
Design says Carmelo broke into the tent. Now his cellmate gonna break into his booty. Oh
some
my.
some Please Johnson stuff. I likes it and I see it and I wants it. All right. So if we look at this from another angle, so we know the backstory of what happened. Like I said, open and shut. If you see it any other way than that, um, oh, did I lose you? Goodness, hold on real quick, and I lost Mia here. Let me bring her back up.
Thank you. I hit the back button one too many times and kicked myself out.
All good, all good. But there is a human side to me to this. You know, when I look at it from Carmelo Anthony's perspective, the only way Carmelo Anthony could have gotten mercy is if he had admitted to it right then and there, asked for mercy, you know, bad day, low emotional control, plead guilty, ask for the mercy of the court and forgiveness for the family. But we got to remember that Austin Metcalf's dad tried that with the Anthony family at the beginning, and basically they forced him out of a pro of a vigil or whatever they were having, some kind of press conference that Austin Metcalf's dad showed up to him, and they forced him out. He left when asked, and he didn't stab anybody in the heart. And right there, I think that kind of destroyed the credibility of the Anthony family. But one thing that family did was they they don't have any love for their son in that sense because, like I said, they don't have souls. They just don't. It is what it is. Based on all my years on this earth and being around that community since I was 5 years old, they have no souls because real good at heart people that understand that case would have simply just said, "Hey, son, you got to eat this one. Um, you're basically going, plead guilty, ask for the mercy of the court, and we're gonna pray on it. You did something wrong. You did something bad. Ask for mercy." If they would have did that, Carmelo might have walked out of there with 5 to 10 years. But no, let's one of the most open and shut murder cases in my lifetime that I've ever seen. You want to fight this and try to use all this woke stuff that's been going on for the last I don't know how many years, that black people can do no wrong, and especially the tribalistic nature of ninjas, that They believe it's okay to kill a white person. If you murder a white person, it's okay. They truly think like this. They hate white people. They really do. And we'll get into that next. But you got it real quick here.
And that's the scary part is that they were stating that it was an all white jury. So if you don't know the difference between a white Caucasian person and a white Dominican or a white Asian, or then you, this society is in trouble from people like that who just want to, insert themselves into the justice system, let's say, and just go rogue and start killing people just because they think they're white. But they can't even they claim color, but they can't even see color properly. Let me read a couple of comments here. David O says that was a bad move. That was earlier when you were talking about the family and how they kicked out Austin Metcalf's dad. And then he says also they took that money though. Yes, they did. They took it and they used it. Instead of saving it for their son's commissary money, they used it up in other things, from what I understand. JB Design says his own family used Kamala's GoFundMe money. Oh, sorry, Carmelo. Wrong black person. Um, Carmelo's GoFundMe money for a car and a new house. Yes, and don't you agree that they should have saved that money for the young man's commissary? I mean, he's gonna need money for a while. And then David says, hope they put some of it away, some of it on his books. And then it says,
Hey, you got it.
I'm a white Negro, David. Oh, it's funny. I again, tragedy on both sides, but the excuses being made by black folks who obviously have no common sense, it is beyond me. And it is tragic that in 2026 we have people making excuses for murderers. We have, people saying that, oh, well, he's black, so I really can't be a juror because I won't sentence him. I won't send a black man to jail. And I don't understand that. What does his color have to do with his crime? I think that the race baiters of nowadays are really sinking their teeth into this and using it to their advantage, because it's not an advantageous situation for anyone but those who use this card. But it's ridiculous, and if people would only use common sense, they would see that it has nothing to do with color. It has to do with your character, who you are, what you do, or what you don't do. It's all about you. Another thing that truly concerns me is that people are saying that this only happened because it was in Texas, or this only happened because it was an all white jury, or this only happened because there was not one single black person on that jury. Um, I'm glad there wasn't. I'm actually glad, because if the black people that were going to be on that jury were going to be the ones that would say, I can't convict him because he's black, instead of actually looking and doing their responsibility and looking at the actual case, I don't know, it's just kind of ridiculous.
Okay, I'm back here.
Hey.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm like driving and I kind of like took a wrong turn. And yeah, kind of difficult to do that in my job and do this at the same time. But as Mia was saying about the jury, this all white jury, which it wasn't, and even still, Jervis Pierce, he was judged by a jury of 12 humans, six alternate humans. This Marxist race stuff, as far as picking a jury, it's just an attempt of tribalism and jury intimidation. I'm kind of glad there weren't any black jurors to begin with, whatever they call black, because, imagine if there would have been like two or three conservative white supremacists of color, Clarence Thomas, Officer Tatum type jurors on there. And they would have obviously voted just along down the lines guilty. But the problem was that the prospective jurors that they questioned that, happened to be black all gave some kind of crazy answers like, no, I can't see myself locking a brother up. Oh, he just looked like a baby. I can't send him to jail. At that point, sorry, it doesn't matter. You can't have people like that on the jury. It has to be an impartial jury, people who can look at the facts of the case and decide guilt or innocent.
They absolutely can't. That is absolutely something that, yeah. I mean, hold on though, but in some delusional minds, they can. So, we're back to what's real and what's not real in some people's minds. I was watching as some man was, jumping like a little orangutan in front of this other gentleman, this white gentleman, and he was obviously jumping on his face and mocking him and antagonizing him for quite a while. And I want to know what happened to the days when if someone were jumping in your face like that, right? You couldn't just, I don't know. I mean, yeah, you could walk away. You could walk away. But, you could also, if this person were to, I I really just want to say just punch him in the face. But,
Can't. But here's the thing, and those familiar with the Boondocks, remember this: the nigga moment episode. Basically, when two black guys bump into each other, all kinds of chaos, all kinds of hell, shootout, can happen. They won't hit each other, but they'll hit, six other people and a baby and a police officer, is normally what happens when nigga moments take place. But there was one scene where they showed, the nigga walking down the street and he bumps into the white guy. And the white guy, he's tensing up, he's balling up. The black guy, he's getting all stressed out. Then all of a sudden the white guy goes, hold up, wait, I'm white. And he just starts laughing and he walks away. That is what we saw when, like, that dude that our Hood Conservative, shout out Hood, covered that dude jumping up and down, making those crazy faces, like he's some from kind of tribe in Sudan. I don't know. That was just weird. But shout out to the Frisco police because that dude was arrested on weapons charges. So, but anyways, that's the kind of people you're dealing with that support not an alleged murderer, an admitted murderer. That kind of people. You can't live in a society with those kinds of people. And we'll get to that next as far as the real estate market. But I mean, that's how I feel about it. You
I feel the same. Why would I want to live around? And it has nothing to do with color, because I mean, like I said, I'm from the Heights, right in Manhattan, Washington Heights, and you can't get more ghetto than that, but it's pretty ghetto. And I made a choice. I chose that I don't, even though there's tons of Dominicans up there and yummy food, but I didn't want to live around there. I didn't want to live around the people like that. People whose behavior was something that I considered to be not something I wanted, not my preference. David O says, what is this? Hold on. Wait. The truck is moving. I can't read. Okay, hold on. Hold on. It says, go, go send. I'm sorry, guys. We're going through a real bumpy area, and I can barely read this. Okay, so it says, go, send, go, go, send, go. Just froze his money. I wonder if that's true. Is that true? Did they freeze that money? I don't know. I don't think so. Dude was Dude was gonna kill. Oh my gosh, dude was doing the kill the bear dance. Y'all. Thanks for bearing with me and my I can't read moments when we're just like bumpity bumpity bump. But um, can you guide me back into where I was? Because I'm lost now.
Okay, okay, I got it. Um, yeah, don't be fooled by the accent, y'all. She's Dominican. Her first language is K, Spanish, Dominican Spanish. The whole white girl thing. Don't be fooled. But let's move into this topic, the real topic at hand, the real reaction, which we're gonna do a part two. If you look at the thumbnail, y'all know me. Like polygyny is life. Um, Mrs. MBD one, who's here with me, and Mrs. MBD two had a little snafu with the whole visa process. Thanks, Trump. I'll get into that in another video. But look, y'all, and JB Design, David O, y'all can attest to this. And anybody watching this, mad bus driver would call that woman, who you'll be a provider for, who you'll lay it on the line for, who checks all the boxes to make you give up the game or whatever. In my case, the one, two, or three for all the other polygyny guys out there. Shout out Rob Kowalski. Um, when you have that woman or those women and they're foreign, remember, y'all, I only believe in foreign. Sorry, American women. Y'all are off limits as far as Trade MBD recommends to any polygyny bros or just any normal guys out there looking, to utilize their passport. American women, y'all are off limits. But, and there's a reason why, y'all. I'll get to that here in a second. But if you're bringing your wife or your wives from overseas and you're bringing them to the U.S., you don't want to live anywhere near Carmelo Anthony's or any other low emotional control person of color. You must do your damnedest research to avo- avoid that, because here's the thing: you don't want to be like on the road, like for work. Say me, I live in San Antonio. Say I'm in Phoenix for work, and my wives are there chilling, and they got to go to Walmart. I I got to tell them, hey, you need to go to Walmart here in the white area where the white people are at. All the white people. But this Walmart over here, they got a sale and they have it in stock. I don't care. If you got to drive 40 miles further, do not go to that Walmart. Because this is the thing: you might have a spouse or a beautiful woman from another country who only sees the propaganda about the American Negro, the American person of color on TV, the woke media, who's going to tell them, shit is sweet, everything is good. And they don't understand that a simple bump of a shopping cart, a simple dispute over a parking spot, a simple, want to choose the last, green platano on the shelf. A simple dispute like that can lead to you getting stabbed in the heart by the wrong person of color. You don't want to have to like worry about that with your, beautiful spouse or spouses. You don't want to have to deal with that. You want to be able to go out there and make it and grind and kill it. And if you got two or three beautiful wives at home, one's got to be in charge, and you got to tell her like, look, hey, go to the HEB, the Albertsons, the Kroger, Safeway, Walmart, out here where the white people live at. But I was told on the media that the white people are bad. Los gringos, los blanquitos está peligroso. They giving you all that nonsense of what they've been told on TV that, oh, the blanquito tiene, la tails, or como monos, or like monkeys or whatever. And you got to like look them dead in the eye and be like, the TV lied to you. The TV lied to you. Look here, woman. Look here, wife. Look for. Oh, stand by. Oh my God, did I lose y'all? All right, tell me, Mia, tell me where they lost me at.
You were saying, "Hey, woman, hey, wife, you cannot go to this grocery store."
Yeah, sorry about that, y'all. Buffed out there for a second, but I mean, I know I was on a long rant soliloquy right there, but the basic gist of it is this: if you're in a religious situation, or if you just got a wife from another country, you've got an instructor that the media in her country, our country, is lying to you. You got to stay out of the black areas at all costs. If it's a predominantly black area, if you're not with her, don't let her go by herself because she doesn't know that a simple nigga moment can result in some low emotional control quiche or Dequarius stabbing you in the heart. It's as simple as that.
David O says, "We here. Thank you for hanging out with us. Yes, thank you." I agree 100%. Even though I am raised in the U.S., I wasn't born in the U.S. I am an American citizen. I love America, but I do know what it's like. I grew up around um, not so nice black people, and they were not only black Americans but black Dominicans and black from wherever, but they were not very nice. And that's because, some people just have that something about them.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'll leave y'all, Afro Latinos out of it because I got a lot of friends that are, highly melanated, Latinos, and that Afro is just a little joke. I don't believe in any of that stuff, but they all have a code. They understand that the only time you catch them like that is when they're emulating, niggas. When they're emulating the worst of the community. That's when you'll see Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Panamanians, Hondurans, you know, anywhere Colombians, anywhere you got melanated people who can pass off as being, black American, nigga, person of color, American, FBA. A lot of times they'll say, "Well, I got to fit in." You know, I'm living in the U.S. I had to move to this bad area, and I got to fit in and blend in. And that's when you'll see that type of behavior. If you talk to them one on one, they even think that the stuff they see ninjas doing is crazy.
I used to think that. I used to think that, but the young the young folks coming up now, Dominicans, a lot of these Latin American youth that are coming up now are very, how would I call it?
Well, let's stick to what we were talking about. As far as like for the fellas when they have a wife from another area, like, and even family members, because myself, like, I've been trying to tell my white friends for the longest, like, hey, don't trust them, do not trust them. No, it's good, they're girls. I said, do not trust, they hate you. But no, there's no way those black, I work with Daquan every week. Daquan is nice. I said, look here, if it comes down to it, a case like Carmelo Anthony, Daquan will stab you in the heart. He's gonna go tribalistic. Well, what? How do you know that? I'm like, look, I've been around them all my life. I've had to cosplay growing up around them. Look, Bill, just listen to me. Hey, look, Sally, just listen to me. Protect your family. It's sad that it has to be that way, but the memes about the real estate market are dependent on moving away from Quiche and Daquan is serious.
I was losing you there at the last moment there, but the real estate market was what you were saying. It definitely comes a lot into play because you want no I as a wife number one want me and wife number two to be safe, so he has to lead and he has to say, hey, you know what, because he runs around and goes more places than we do, so he needs to be like, you know what, you're not going here. And yeah, we need to listen because a lot of uh, a lot of women who come from foreign countries and aren't guided properly do run into trouble. You run into trouble in the supermarket, bump into somebody's cart, and watch what happens. You know, I've run into that situation myself. You know, when I have my hair all nice and straight and I look pretty light skinned, pretty white as they would call me. But what they don't realize is that I grew up in the hood and I can defend myself to a certain extent,
Okay,
of course.
but here's the thing with that. It doesn't matter. To them, even if you got your fro out, it doesn't matter. You're not like you come from a civilized uh, community, a civilized family where you're able to have logical and rational thought to where no, you don't stab somebody in the heart when they bump your cart. You don't stab somebody in the cart. I mean, in the heart over dispute over a parking space. You come from that, and the problem it is that when you thinking, okay, this chick is gonna try me here, we better throw hands. When in her mind, she's trying to go in her purse and like stab you with like the butcher knife, that she carries in her purse for some weird reason. That's the kind of people you're dealing with and the kind of people you have to move away from. And like I said, unfortunately, in situations like that, your average everyday, good black person is gonna be like, well, if you hadn't put hands on her, if you hadn't raised your voice at him, if you would have just respected their personal space, all in the explaining starts to happen. But that's just, my warning.
I agree. I agree. I tend to be a little soft when it comes to that, as far as, believing that generally you can reason with people. But I am getting educated more and more every day. The more things that I see, like this whole Carmelo Anthony thing, it's even even the whole George Floyd thing. I mean, I am learning more and more that no, you can't trust. You can't trust because it people are irrational. These thoughts are irrational. They're they're emotion based and they make no sense. So it's more like a mental delusional thing. I don't even know how to explain it. Can you?
Well, and I got a lot of good everyday brothers, you talk to. And just like last night when I said I was listening to, the Jeff's show, Ask a Brother podcast, shout out. But I don't understand how this can even be a debate. How, six, well educated brothers can sit around on a panel and say anything other than guilty. You don't bring a knife to a track meet, and you throw hands. If you got beef, you throw hands. If somebody asks you to leave and you're not supposed to be somewhere, walk away. Now, hypothetically, if it was like this, let's say hypothetically that, the narrative, Hunter and Big Austin, these big, huge white twins came over and told me to get out of a tent. Okay, look, if Steve Goldberg and The Rock came up to me and was like, hey, nigga, you need to move. You in the wrong spot. I ain't gonna sit there and argue back with them. I'll be like, I bet. All right, cool. I'm in the wrong spot. Let me move. Don't need to get hostile. All right, let me move. I just get up and move. I just back out of there, prepared just in case for whatever. If I got to throw hands, but at no moment, I don't care if it's The Rock or Brock Lesnar, whoever. I'm not gonna like, oh man, let me shoot this dude. Let me stab this dude. No, if we got to throw hands, we got to throw hands. But that wasn't even the case. Like I said, when you got folks debating this, like having logical, rational conversations, and let's talk about jury selection. Let's talk about, how much, how hard was the push or shove. No, that's freaking illogical. It's you brought a knife to a track meet. You were asked to leave 15 times. You decided to stab another young kid and murder him. That's it. Like, too bad you weren't 18. It wasn't a couple weeks past you were 18. We could be looking at a capital murder charge here, which I believe, would be justified in the situation because he didn't ask for mercy, the mercy of the court. So, yeah, open and shut in my book. I can't take anybody seriously if they don't see it as that.
So I have a couple of comments here. We got Free Zone Boo in the house. Hello, Free Zone. Free Zone says that fire chat, that Trey fire chat. And then David O says, I don't stay where I'm not welcome. Please say that again. I don't stay where I'm not welcome. Some people don't seem to understand that. I honestly think that this young man did understand. He understood he wasn't welcome. He went there looking for trouble. A lot of the witnesses say that you could see the veins popping in his hands because he was gripping the knife already. So he knew what he was there for. What reasoning he had for this aggression, who knows? But the whole situation of trying to make excuses for him or defend him is really just a nonsensical, moronic thing that makes no sense to me whatsoever. And and
But
and then the fact that his parents left before the sentencing, I'm like, okay, that's crazy because if you truly care for your child and you're trying to defend your child, you're with him until they say, yep, you're guilty. The hardest part is the sentencing, I would think. Why wouldn't you want to be there for him? You just walked away. And
well,
I
give
don't
me a
know.
second here. It's just like that clip Coach Greg Adams plays. I got to get my bag and run. Um, these folks were
You were breaking up.
okay. These folks are just grifters. No soul having grifters. They don't care about Carmelo. Who knows if they really even care about their other kids? They don't care about that boy. Well, man, now it was all to them. It's a game. They don't see things as real life, and it's hard for me to say this. It really is, y'all. Like I said, I grew up with a lot of cats, and I had to cut a lot off after like Mia brought up George Floyd. When George Floyd happened, I'm like, are you fools really this crazy? Are you ninjas really gonna act this crazy over a crackhead? Am I losing my mind? Did I like walk into another iteration? I mean, like a parallel universe? What the heck is wrong with black folk? And here we go, Carmelo Anthony, and here we go again. But I don't know. I'll give it to Mia. Like close it out. I'm not gonna be up here too long, y'all. Let Mia close this out. But this is crazy. We'll do a part two. You know, again as far as this. But right now, this is just crazy, y'all. It's just I don't know what to say. I can't have a logical conversation with anybody who tries to make explain this. You got it, Mia.
Thank you. Let me see what other comments we have here, and then we will close this out. It says here, Free Zone Lou, shout out to Mrs. NBD as well. Thank you so much, Free Zone. It's nice to have you up here. Uh, David O said, damn, about that life. Yep. Well, yeah, this young man is about to see a long time in jail, which is unfortunate. But fortunate for the rest of us because, if he has those tendencies at just 17, then who knows what kind of grown man, what kind of atrocities happening out there. But now, now we just have to deal with trying to make sense of the nonsensical. So, y'all, be safe out there. Enjoy life to the fullest. And yes, I am so thankful that I have a husband who guides me and leads me away from people like this. So, me and wife number two are super happy to have someone who, um, yeah, protects us from I don't want to say the word, but people who just make no daggone sense. So here's
Man,
to life,
I
y'all.
tell you, I tell you what, man, you can have people thinking like I'm like force feeding you a script. If you don't stop sounding like you're reading from a script, like I'm over here with a gun to your head, you better say it. You better say it like that. There's no freaking
No.
plot the nose for you tonight. I'm gonna get the belt out on you if you don't say it like I want you to say it.
I sound a little robotic, and I do because I'm just honestly, my mind is thinking so much about how this makes no sense. And I do tend to talk a little slower when I'm trying to think and talk at the same time. But no, absolutely a fact. That is how I feel. I'm very grateful to have what I have, and to have who I have in my life. And that is important because who you choose in your life and who chooses you, that's the important part, because otherwise you run into situations like people in the supermarket having issues with you because you're not the right color, or someone stabbing you because you pushed them or you bumped into them. So it's important to have the right
But
crowd.
no, but I'm joking though about you sounding all robotic. But I know what it is, and Mia asked me this the other day, and I'm gonna close it out on this, y'all. But Mia asked me the other day, well, told me the other day, as I'm watching coverage on this case, she's just like, I don't get it, I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand what is going on. This makes no sense. I'm looking at it like we're watching Donovan Sharp and Matt Walsh cover this, and she's got the most perplexed look on her face. Like, I don't understand. This makes zero sense to my Dominican brain. I'm like, you know what? It makes zero sense to my American brain either. This is, yeah. But anyway, y'all, we out. Mia's got one more thing for y'all. Uh-oh, I think I'm broken up, y'all.
Okay, you're back.
I'm back. Man, this is wild. Like I got like 5G, like all these bars. But anyway, y'all, I'm out. I'll catch y'all another time, and I'll give Mia the last word. Then I'm gonna end this piece.
David O, say thanks to Trey and to Mrs. NBD. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, and thank you for uh, listening to us talk about this and give our opinion on this. I think these are important topics to talk about because we need to know how to act. We need to know how to go forward. So thank y'all. Have a good night. We're on the road, y'all.